MS Now's Inzamam Rashid is reporting from Dubai for us. Colonel Jack Jacobs is a Medal of Honor recipient in MS Now military analyst, and Peter Baker, chief White House correspondent for the New York Times and MS Now contributor, also with us now. And Peter, one day the president suggests this war has been won. The next day there's negotiations that are ongoing. The next day the fighting is back on. From your sources in the White House, how should we be understanding the president's posture at this point?
Well, I think one thing we need to do is stop paying quite so much attention to whatever he says at any given moment, because it doesn't necessarily reflect reality, or certainly isn't going to reflect reality for maybe more than a few hours, right? He tends to pop off when he's mad. As you say, one minute he's saying we have a deal, the next minute we don't. One minute we won the war, the next minute we're going to rain hellfire all over them. Pay attention to the actions, not the words, because the words are all over the map and not you can't even diagram them in a sentence, really. So pay attention to the actions. We'll see what today's strikes, if he follows through on them, really amount to. Are they proportional, or is this signaling the beginning of something more intense, like we saw at the beginning of the war? I suspect not, because the president doesn't seem to want to go there anymore. He seems to want to find a deal that he can call a victory more than anything else. Even as he's threatening more action, he still seemed to be holding out hope for some sort of an agreement. But as he himself said, the Iranians are playing the Americans for suckers right now. And the question is, what does the president do about it? The phrase he uses is tapping us along. Colonel, when Trump says that Iran has to pay the price for targeting a U.S. helicopter, what do you think that could signal? What could be the next strategic target inside of Iran?
Well, it's likely to be more of the same. It doesn't make any sense to attack real strategic targets that'll have a long-term impact on whatever happens inside Iran. All Trump wants to do is get these people to the table. He wants a deal desperately, and there are people inside Iran who want a deal desperately too. But the only way he's going to be able to do it is to respond the way he has. So there'll be military targets, launching sites, command and control facilities, pretty much the same as we've seen all along. And it's liable to be more of the same. But we should make no mistake about it at all. He wants a deal, and wants a deal as soon as he possibly can get it. But he won't get it if he unleashes enormous amounts of firepower on Iran. At the end of the day, it's not going to make them come to the table, and coming to the table is exactly what he wants, Ariel.
So, Colonel, in your assessment, the U.S. is not likely to strike in key infrastructure like oil refineries, power plants, bridges inside of Iran. What would be the upsides and the downsides, frankly, for doing that?
Well, there's no particular upside to it. It's not going to convince the Iranians, either the mullahs or the army, to give in, to come to the table to cut a deal with Trump. Big strikes on strategic targets like that, on infrastructure, that's not going to convince anybody. There have been strikes there, and they haven't done exactly what Trump wants to have it result in. So there'll be military targets principally, and there will be responses and co-responses on and on. We have to remember also that Iran is not totally in control of everybody who is attacking the United States, our allies, and our interests. Don't forget that there's something schism inside Iran. You have relatively moderate people who would like to see a deal, and there are others who would not. And so this is going to take some time to play out.
Peter, I want to zoom out for just a moment to the optics, the messaging that's coming out of the White House. There's been this constant dramatization of this war by the administration, whether it's mixing the images of the bombing with footage of movies and video games, or now you have the president posting the clip of the West Wing. It's confusing. CENTCOM says this was a proportionate response. Then you see that clip from the West Wing kind of telegraphing something different. What's behind this? Does the administration think this is the best way to sell this conflict to the American people?
Yeah, that's a good question. I remember that episode of The West Wing, and what you see there is a president who was angry and erupting at his military and civilian advisors. But later in the episode, he doesn't end up doing the all-out, disproportional, crush them kind of response, because, in fact, he recognizes that that's not a responsible thing for an American president to do. He pulls back from the brink of all-out war. Now, Should we read much into that? I don't know. I mean, the truth is, this is a president who enjoys trolling the public, enjoys trolling reporters, enjoys posting things that may or may not reflect, his intentions, and it's all a game to some extent. He acts as if he is a social media influencer rather than the president of the United States and the commander in chief in charge of the world's most powerful military with great responsibility in his hands. And to send these signals of video games and AI generated images is less than serious, but. It's a kind of a distraction from what's really going on. What's really going on is what is happening in the theater itself.
Don't forget, he's also trolling the media as well. Inzamam, has Iran answered for why their drone targeted an American helicopter? It seemed as though that happened at a time when tensions had been tamped down slightly. What are they saying comes next?
Yeah, well, look, this is the whole reason as to why we're now in this situation where it looks as if the US will carry out potentially further attacks today across this region. But Iran has responded, not directly saying that this response was in response to what they did in terms of shooting that helicopter down. But yesterday, the foreign minister, Abbas Araghchi, put a post out on X in which he said that foreign forces in proximity to our territory are at constant risk on account of their own human errors, plane accidents, or potentially being caught. To reduce risk is for them to leave. We prefer language of diplomacy, but speak other languages too. Now, this had come out after the president had confirmed that it was Iran that shot down that helicopter. And with that post, he actually put out a picture of the Strait of Hormuz, identifying which is Iranian territorial waters, where Omani territorial waters is, and effectively where there is international maritime territorial waters as well. I think what the foreign minister was potentially indicating is that the Iranian attack happened because that US helicopter may have been flirting near to Iranian territorial waters as Iran see it. Many people see the Strait of Hormuz as international waters, but over the last few months, Iran has been saying very strictly that there's a part of the water which is Iranian waters. So if you come near that, then we will attack you. Now, he also said in there that we prefer diplomacy, but clearly Iran is showing that it still has military might to cause damage, to cause impact in this conflict, despite what the president has been saying over the last few months, Ariel, that they've completely destroyed Iran's military. He also said it today as well in a post on Truth Social, saying that their military has been completely wiped out. That simply isn't true, because we've seen Iran not only attack the US assets in the last few days, not only target Israel, but also target many of the Gulf states as well. Just one final point, and I think it's important to note to where effectively Iran stands tonight. There has not been much diplomacy. The talks have pretty much stalled as a result of all this fighting. And now, if we do see US attacks tonight and overnight in this region, we'll have to see to what extent they are. But there will be an Iranian response once again, whether that is directly towards US assets in the Strait of Hormuz once again, or whether it will be to the likes of Kuwait, to the likes of Bahrain and Jordan, just as we saw those attacks overnight.
The region definitely on a knife's edge. And as you point out, Inzamam, this is the era of asymmetric warfare. It only takes an Iranian drone to take out a sophisticated U.S. helicopter. Inzamam Rashid, Colonel Jack Jacobs, Peter Baker, thank you all.